Okay, so the first organization bear the label Sicilian Mafia, okay, based in Italy, known to its member as Cosa Nostra. So in the United States, mafia generally refers to American mafia, while some other organizations of mafia is Russian mafia, Irish mob. In Chinese, we have the triads. There is Albanian mafia, Bosnian mafia. In Japanese, there is Yakuza. We have the Japanese Yakuza. We have Neapolitan Camorra. Then we have the Calabrian Indrangheta, the Indian Mafia, the Union Course, and the Serbian Mafia, and the Bulgarian Mafia. But there are other localized mafia also around the world, no? Unknown personalities of mafia. First, we have the Sicilian Mafia based in Sicily, Italy. So they were formed in 1800s, unify the Sicilian peasants. If you say peasants, farmers, no, against their enemies. So in Sicily, the word mafia means manly. So Sicilian Mafia changed from a group of honorable Sicilian men to an organized crime group in year 1920. Then we have the Camorra or Neapolitan Mafia based on Naples or Naples. The word Camorra means gang. Camorra first appeared in 1800s in Naples, Italy as prison gang. So once released, members formed clans in the cities and continue to grow in power. The Camorra has now approximately of more than 100 clans, approximately 7,000 members, making the largest Italian organized crime group. Then we have the Indrangheta or Calabrian Mafia based in Calabria. So Indrangheta comes from the Greek word meaning courage or loyalty. So Indrangheta formed in 1860s when a group of Sicilian was banished from the island Italian government. So they settled in Calabria and formed small criminal groups. Then we have the Sacra Corona Unita or the United Sacred Crown based on Puglia region. So law enforcement became aware of the Sacra Corona Unita in 1980s. Like other groups, it started as a prison gang and its members were released. They settled in Puglia region in Italy and continued to grow and form links with other mafia groups. The Sacra Corona Unita it's headquartered in Brindisi, is located in southeastern region of Puglia. So we have organized crime groups. So whether traditional mob families or street gangs have common characteristics. So organized crime thrives in supplying illegal goods. So for example, in 1999, estimated 15 million Americans use illegal drugs and 15% of whom use marijuana. So the goal of the organized crime group is to make money. Members gain sense of pride, power, and protection. So groups have what is called pyramid power, structured like business. So the legitimate bosses, there is a boss called chef or executive chef called chief executive officer or CEO. And then we have the under CEO or the vice presidents. They have the treasurer, advisors, accountants, lawyers, and technical staff. So para rin silang legit na business. So the organized crime has a boss, advisor, who work closely with the boss and assign tasks, carry out the physical work, and act out tasks from collecting money or worse, killing people, men and with special skills. So the mafia members are extremely loyal and committed. So they go to initiational rituals, take oaths, swear to secrecy. So punishment for members who stray might be demotion to lower rank depending on the offense. The omerta is their code of silence of the organized crime. We have two major principles. Follow your superior. Keep silent even if you are captured. And any violation of the code means death as consequence. So in Asia, there are also criminal crime groups in Asian criminal enterprises. So we have the first group involved in the US in early 1900s was the Chinese Tongs social organization formed by early Chinese American immigrants. So there are two categories of Asian criminal enterprises. We have the traditional criminal and the non-traditional criminal. The term traditional criminal enterprise or enterprises includes Chinese triads or the underground societies based in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau, as well as the Japanese Yakuza or the Buryukudan. So other terms sa Japanese Yakuza is Buryukudan. They are the traditional Chinese enterprise. While the non-traditional criminal enterprise includes Chinese criminal influence, tongs, triads, affiliates, and other ethnic Asian street gangs found in several countries with sizable Asian communities. Traditional crime refers to crime that takes place across national borders. So if you say national borders, border to border, one country to the next country. That's why it's called transnational. It describes crimes that are not only international but also crimes that cross, take note, cross across the borders between countries. Okay. So what are these examples of transnational crimes? We have human trafficking, people smuggling, trafficking of goods, armed trafficking, drug trafficking, sex slavery, pedophilia, and terrorism. So mo ni ang ilang common product. Okay? So in our country, we define kidnapping as an unlawful taking of and carrying away of person by force or fraud against his will, or by any manner depriving his liberty for a purpose of extorting ransom payments for his or her release. Okay. So 10 threats by high-level threat panel to the United Nations. We have why these are the reasons why organized crime group are formed. Unang-una, the threat of poverty, the threat of infectious disease, the threat of environmental degradation, the threat of interstate war. What yun ba interstate war? So civil war or interstate war is the conflict between two or the faction between two armed groups or two groups, no? It could be a good example in our country here is Rido. Okay? Then we have the civil war, we have the genocide or mass killing, other atrocities such as sex slavery, kidnapping for body parts, common gyapon ni, weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, and transnational organized crime. So these are threats to the United Nations. So how we combat Asian criminal enterprise? So for example, in an Asian organized crime, we have the FBI National Police Agency of Japan Working Group. So we have this group annually discuss ongoing investigation on policy matters for sharing intelligence, interagency investigative support, and the FBI extraterritorial operations in Japan. So if you can remember, there is a intelligence report, no, in alerting the Philippines, no, from Japan. This is the intelligence report from Japan, alerting the Philippines of the possible terrorism attack from international terrorists. So that's why the police and the military nowadays are validating this information. Then we have the Project Bridge. It's a working group under Interpol. The Interpol stands for International Police, to help members of countries coordinate investigations and information, sharing between police agencies to fight Asian alien smuggling syndicates. Then we have the Interagency Working Group on alien smuggling. They coordinate with National Security Council, Special Coordination Group on International Crime. Then we have the International Asian Organized Crime Conference. They meet annually, meaning yearly, together with other law enforcement agencies. Then we have the Canadian United States Cross-Border Crime Forum. So they usually coordinate with the US-Canadian law enforcement. Then we have the International Law Enforcement Academy in Bangkok, Thailand, for the assistance from the FBI to Australian federal law enforcement agencies. So these are some common organized, these are groups that are organized to combat Asian criminal enterprises. Okay. Then we have the stages of kidnapping. We have the risk analysis and target selection. First is the risk analysis. Second is the seizing of the victim. Third is the negotiation. Fourth is the collection of ransom. So these are the four, no? These are the four stages of kidnapping. So risk analysis and target selection. So pilian sa nila kinsa ilang possible target. Second is the seizing of target. So the forcible taking of the victim. Then we have the negotiation. So kung pila ang amount. Then we have the collection. Then crimes committed by organized criminals. So in the Philippines, we have terrorism, no? Most terrorism in the country are conducted by Islamic terrorist group. So the most active terrorist group is the MILF, the MNLF, okay, the Abu Sayyaf, the Raja Sulaiman movement, and the Jima'a Islamiyah. So another is the computer crime, refers to any crime that involves the computer and network, where computers may not have played instrumental part in the commission of the crime. Okay. Then we have laws in the Philippines that deals about terrorism. So we have Republic Act number 9372, an act to secure the state and protect our people from terrorism. Take note, RA 9372. So it was enacted in the House of Representatives. The act shall be called as the Human Security Act of 2007. Ito yung law na medyo controversial class, no? How can we differentiate terrorism from an ordinary organized crime? What is the difference between organized crime group and terrorism? Terrorism is any person, according to the law, any person who commits an act punishable under the following provisions of the RPC. Ito yung tinatawag natin na A, piracy in general mutiny in high seas in the Philippine water. Ibig sabihin, yung mga kumukuha ng pirated galing ng sa ibang bansa, no, pirated or imitated item from other country. We have B, Article 134, rebellion or insurrection. So kung sino tong gumawa ng rebellion or insurrection, they are considered as terrorists. Then Article 134-A, kudita. including acts committed by private person. So we have also Article 248, the murder. Article 267, the kidnapping of serious and serious illegal detention. Article 324, crimes involving distractions under PD's numbers 1613, the law on arson. RA number 6969, Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990. RA number 5207, Atomic Energy Regulatory and Liability Act of 1968. RA number 6235, Anti-Hijacking Law. PD number 532, Anti-Piracy and Anti-Highway Robbery Law in 1974. So we have also PD number 1866, decree codifying the law on illegal and unlawful possession of manufacture, dealing, acquisition, disposition of firearms, ammunition, and explosives. Okay. So those are the law in the Philippines, RA 9372. So let's skip muna ni. Taas kayo ni. Okay, we have money laundering. What is money laundering? The term money laundering does not derive from its offense from Al Capone. Use laundromats to hide the ill-gotten gain. So if you say ill-gotten, galing sa masama, no? It's more likely to mean that dirty money is made clean. Yan. So parang kaya laundry kasi nilabhan yung pera, no? Dirty money being cleaned. At some point in the process, there must be a switch between two necessarily the art is to keep that switch hidden. We have law on RA 9194. So RA 9194, an act amending Republic Act number 9160, otherwise known as the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001. So what are things discussed under RA 9194? B, we have letter B, covered transactions in a transaction is a transaction in cash or other equivalent monetary involving total amount in excess of 500,000 within one banking day. So kung mag-withdraw ka ng pera sa halagang 500,000 pataas sa isang araw, kailangan kang dumaan sa Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2001. So ito yung mga transactions na 500,000 pataas. Okay? Then section 2, paragraph, no? And section B1, suspicious transactions are transactions with covered institutions regardless of the amounts involved. Okay? Where any of the following circumstances exist. There is no, number one, there is no underlying legal or trade obligation, purpose of economic justifications. So suspicious ang transaction mo kapag wala kang negosyo, pero nag-withdraw ka ng malaking pera, 500,000 pataas. Then the client is not properly identified. Then the amount involved is not commensurate to the business or finance capacity of the client. So ibig sabihin, hindi akma yung income mo sa iyong capacity bilang isang tao. Unquestionable income or amount. Section 3, same act further amended, inserting between paragraph. 4, taking account all circumstance may be perceived by the clients. Okay. So dito tayo sa offense, no? Money laundering offense. Money laundering is a crime whereby proceeds of an unlawful activity is herein defined as transacted. Okay. Ito yung mga this is committed in any of the following. Any person knowing that the monetary instrument or property represents, involves, relates to the proceeds of the unlawful activity, transacts or attempt to transact said monetary instrument or property. Letter B, any person knowing that any monetary instrument any unlawful activity performs or fails to perform any act which results which he facilitates the offense of money. The monetary instrument property is required under act with the laundering council or AMLAC fails to do. Yun yung mga money laundering offense. So, ibig sabihin, kapag hindi mo na-disclose yung pera mo, pailan ka ng kaso ng AMLAC or Anti-Money Laundering Council pag hindi mo dinisclose yung pera mo sa bangko. Section 7, same act is hereby amended. The creation of AMLAC. So, ang AMLAC po is created and shall be composed of the governor of the bank as the Pilipinas as the chairman. Yan. So take note ang chairman ng AMLAC po ay yung governor ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The commission and the Insurance Commission and the chairman of the security as members. So yung mga membro po niya ay Commissioner of Insurance Commission, the one of the security is their mission as their members. Okay. So ito yung mga trabaho nila, no? Require, receive, covered suspicious transaction, to issue orders addressed to appropriate supervising authority, to institute civil forfeiture proceedings, to cause the filing of with the DOJ or to the Ombudsman. So ito pa yung iba nilang trabaho. Okay. So Section 10. So the AMLAC has the power to freeze monetary instrument or property. Just like what happened here in Cagayan de Oro, no? Yung isa sa malaking bahay na parang resort dito, no? The owner are arrested because of their connection the Paruhinog in Osamis. Malaki talaga yung bahay, may swimming pool sa loob, parang hotel sa loob. Pero ang kanilang pader ay napakataas. So kaya questionably, no, kasi wala silang legitimate income. So ang nangyari, freeze ng AMLAC ang lahat ng property ng mga taong ito. So may nakalagay sa labas, this property is freeze by Anti-Money and Laundering Council. Yan. So their power is in Section 10. The Court of Appeal, upon application of ex parte or the AMLAC, after determination the probable cause exists that any monetary instrument or property is in any way related to unlawful activity. So, ibig sabihin, the property was related to the unlawful activity. So, yung bahay, yung lupa, ay napatayo dahil sa illegal na pera. Okay. So the freeze order shall be a period of 20 days unless extended by court. Yan. Okay. So if we say human trafficking, it is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of arson with or without victim's consent or knowledge within across the national borders by means of threat, use of force, and other forms of coercion, or it could be abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or position, or taking advantage of the vulnerability of the person. So, ito yung definition, no? Complete definition ng human trafficking. So, what's the purpose? For giving and receiving payment or benefit for the consent of person having control over another person. No? For the purpose of exploitation. So yung mga common dito, yung mga no? Yung mga child exploitation. So ito yung karaniwang ginagawa ng ating mga kapulisan, no? NBI, no? So exploitation and prostitution of other persons, no? For the forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery, servitude or removal or sale of organs. So ito yung mga sale of organs, napaka-common nito, no? Kasi sale of organs napakamahal. O tinatawag natin to na illegal organ trade, no? Illegal organ trade. Okay. Then Act number 9208. So policies to eliminate trafficking in persons, especially women and children, establishing the necessary institutional mechanism, protection and support of trafficked persons, providing penalties and violations for other purposes. So in short, the Anti-Trafficking in Person Act. So according to law, acts of trafficking in person shall be unlawful for any person, natural or juridical. If we say juridical, it is a corporation, no? It is it is two or more person or corpo.